Hi, I'm a spooky goose, and when I'm not writing about the paranormal or playing Balatro, I'm at my day job. When I'm working, I tend to have something playing that provides background noise. It can't be too engaging, otherwise I'll get distracted. A TV show is too interesting, and I sing along if I know the lyrics to music. What I've found works best is LawTube. This is a whole other world on YouTube that exists to provide commentary on ongoing legal issues. It's mostly US criminal trials. Days upon days of glorious, tedious, unengaging background noise. Endless hours of witness testimony, jury instruction, and closing argument. It's perfect. A side effect of this is that every once in a while, I learn something. Usually it's another way that the law does not work in the way a reasonable person would expect it to. The law is often archaic and bizarre. So when Beardo recently put out a video in response to one of the owners of the Conjuring house releasing a statement about the Cody and Satori drama, something set alarm bells ringing in my mind. In the video, Beardo claims that essentially it would be stupid for the Conjuring house to sue Debunkers because they would have to prove that Cody and Satori's abilities are real. I believe this view to be mistaken. Disclaimer, I am not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. You should seek paid legal advice from a legal professional if you have any concerns. Another disclaimer. This video includes hypothetical opinions and hypothetical statements of fact in order to illustrate how the law may apply to them. Another thing to note before we get started is that this video is not meant to be approval for or encouragement of any kind of legal action. I only want to highlight what I believe to be a misunderstanding of defamation law in England and Wales, and how a cautious approach may be warranted. Firstly, let's talk about what a defamation case requires the claimant to provide proof of. In a defamation case in England and Wales, the claimant is the party making the allegation in court. Sorry, one more bit of housekeeping. Saying in England and Wales all the time is going to be clunky, so from now on please remember that when I talk about defamation, I am talking about it in the context of a court case in England and Wales. Anyway, let's get back to it. The only things that a claimant in a defamation case need to prove are that 1. The defendant made the alleged defamatory statements. 2. The claimant suffered, or is likely to suffer, serious harm due to the statements. Serious harm can include financial and reputational harm and is not strictly defined. It is assessed on a per-case basis. There are other factors that contribute to harm, including how widely published a claim was. In other words, how many people saw it. I believe that as long as the Conjuring house are able to prove they suffered serious financial harm due to a decrease in bookings, and this wasn't attributable to any other event, then they are likely to pass this test. To go any further, we need to take a look at what Beardo said in his video.
But you need to be careful here, because if you're going to go down the route of threatening people for slander, and you wanted to take any of us to court over this, Cody and Satori would have to prove without a shadow of a doubt in a court of law that they are in fact talking to spirits and that the knocking method is not fake. That would mean that a court would appoint physicists, would appoint experts, would make them take their shoes and socks off, have them sit on a chair, take their feet off the ground without shoes on and see if that knocking is still possible. Are you prepared to go that far? Because this is where, if you're going on the slanderous route, this is where you're going to find yourself. We don't have to prove the Cody and Satori are fake, because
while Beardo assumes that he would be allowed to force Cody and Satori by law to perform experiments, this is, from what I know, wrong. The responsibility lies solely with the defendant to offer a valid defense against defamation. A defendant's statements are assumed to be false and defamatory, and the defendant has to offer evidence to prove that they have a valid defense against the claim. As an aside, A defendant appears to be able to call the claimant as a witness, but they are unlikely to get responses that would help prove the defamatory statement to be true. This is far from them being required to prove their abilities in court. That is everything the claimant is required to do. Next, let's take a look at the defenses that would be available to a debunker if they were taken to court. In England and Wales, where a number of prominent debunkers live, including Beardo and Mythos, the available defences to defamation are limited, but one of those defences is truth. This requires the defendant to prove that their alleged defamatory statement is substantially true. Substantially true means that minor details may be inaccurate, but that the meat of the statement is found to be true. For example, if you were sued for making a defamatory statement on Facebook that said, "Joe Blogs keeps coming into my shop and stealing frozen peas, beans, and hobnob biscuits. Watch out for this thief," and you presented video evidence that showed that it was provably true that Joe Blogs was stealing peas, beans, and Jaffa cakes, then the statement is likely to be found substantially true. Joe Blogs did steal items from a store, and they did include 2 of the items listed in the statement. One small detail was found to be false, but this is unlikely to defeat truth as a defense. Substantially true is a mitigation against "you got one tiny detail wrong, therefore you are guilty of defamation." That is the proof for this defense, that the statement made by the defendant, a debunker, is, on the balance of probabilities, substantially true. Could a debunker prove to a judge that the statements made about Cody and Satori are true? Let's examine a hypothetical statement and see how provable it is. Quote, "Cody and Satori are 100% fake," unquote. Could a defendant prove that Cody and Satori's act is fake based on the videos of them performing their act available online? Probably not from the videos I've seen. While debunks of the videos offer compelling arguments on how the act could be faked, there is no piece of evidence in those videos that proves the defamatory statement of Cody and Satori being 100% fake. Remember that the defendant cannot ask the plaintiff to prove anything. The statements are assumed to be false, and the defendant has the sole responsibility to prove their words are true. While debunkers and commenters are quick to say that something is 100% proved, the standard in court is very different. Could the same statement be defended by honest opinion? This is where the defendant relies on their words being offered as opinion rather than fact. It relies on a person stating their opinion and the evidence that leads them to believe that. Opinion cannot be found true or false. It is simply a belief. There are other elements to honest opinion that I won't get into here, as I don't believe that it's a viable defense in the case of this statement. Cody and Satori are 100% fake does not look like an opinion. Even if you put a disclaimer at the start of the video saying it is opinion, or occasionally say the words, "in my opinion," if you consistently state things as fact rather than opinion, I don't believe this defense would work. Language is important, and people need to be careful with their words. We do not have free speech protections like the United States have. While I am, once again, not a lawyer, I believe this kind of statement is much more defensible with honest opinion. From the videos that I've seen, I am not convinced that this is real. I believe it could be toe-tapping or joint popping, as was the case in the Fox sisters in the 1800s, where similar knocking noises were heard, which one of the sisters later admitted to being a hoax. While this language is less headline-grabbing, it's far more likely that a court would be able to see this as honest opinion, or that a plaintiff's lawyer would consider that statement as non-actionable in the first place. Note that a basis for the belief was included: videos watched and similarity to proven hoaxes. Another defense is public interest. This seems to be used to defend the media when they make statements of fact or opinion that concern matters of public interest, including government, law enforcement, and other subjects that may concern the public. While this defense can include consumer protection, I don't believe this would be a good match for statements of fact made in debunking videos. especially as UK consumers would be unlikely to interact in a business sense with Cody and Satori. While we're talking about consumers, one thing that I forgot to mention earlier. Actually, we'd better call this an aside. Okay. Throughout the video, I've been mixing the ideas of the Conjuring house and Cody and Satori as a singular entity that could bring a lawsuit against someone. From my understanding, this isn't something the Conjuring house could do. Only statements made about the Conjuring house would be actionable by the Conjuring house. I don't believe that statements made about Cody and Satori would be directly actionable by TCH. But TCH and Cody and Satori may be able to bring some sort of joint action and say that statements made about one damage the other. I'm not sure, but I wanted to clear that up a little. I'm not trying to police the content that anyone makes, but I hope this encourages any debunkers in the UK to research the law on this and see how little protection UK defamation law provides. The protections people think they'll be able to rely on simply don't exist in our legal system. Again, I don't like the chilling effect that throwing around words like defamation has, and I personally find aspects of UK defamation law to be absurd, but it's the system we have, and people should be careful to stay within the legally protected boundaries to avoid spurious lawsuits. Look after yourselves, and I'll see you next time.